Hi friends, welcome back to Spirit School. Welcome back to Technique Week. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's technique and I hope that you enjoy this one as well. Take your notes, try it on for size, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. Never forget to have fun on your path and try to find joy. And if you just need this reminder at this moment to lighten up and have some fun around the exploration and the unfoldment of your abilities. Welcome to your technique of the week, where this week we are going to be focusing on performance anxiety. Now, this is not going to be everybody's case when they enter lightworking. So whether you're doing psychic readings or mediumship readings, astrology readings, angel connections, when we put ourselves in a vulnerable situation and position to be of service to the spirit world and to be of service to humanity, there are a certain level of expectations when it comes to a reader from somebody who is investing in a reading. Now, I personally think that as readers, for some of us, we may take that responsibility on and it can become a little bit of a burden. For people who struggle with anxiety, CPTSD or PTSD, who have wounds around rejection or people pleasing, or even stage fright. There are so many different lived experiences that we can have that when we come into the arena of mediumship or light working in general, that all of a sudden all these performance anxieties come up. And there's usually a slightly nuanced and different story that we tell each and every one of us that is very indicative of the life we have lived up until the point where we discovered our intuitive abilities and then felt that calling to share these abilities with the world. So trying to hit on some of those nuances that come in, that not everyone's going to have the same ruminations that I have. I personally had debilitating stage fright. And of course, when I went into mediumship, even in the 101 sitting, I felt like there was a lot of pressure because of the different things that were on TV. I felt that people had a certain level of expectations that I would be unable to meet. There were a lot of different ruminations that happened for me that really impacted my confidence in my readings. And so in turn, we can experience things like performance anxiety, where we may feel a little bit of dread heading into our readings. We may feel a little bit nauseous, like those butterflies in our tummy. We may feel our nervous system activating in ways that do remind us of trauma. It's like a trauma response. And so some of these feelings that come in with performance anxiety could feel very much like a sign like you're not in alignment with it. And one thing I would like to challenge with this idea is that often I have found that whenever I stretch myself, whenever I do something that my soul needs to do, it's a calling, I experience the same level of anxiety as when I am doing something like jaywalking across the street and it's dangerous. You know what I mean? Our body really doesn't know the difference in what is happening. It just responds in a way that is trying to alert us. This is scary stuff happening. So we need to know that not all performance anxiety and not all anxiety is equal. And often it is said from people who are thought leaders in this space that when it comes to nervous system and being human, that there are, how was I going to say this? Our bodies really can't tell the difference between excitement and nervousness. So we often sometimes have to work with the mind on how to perceive a situation if the way that we are currently perceiving it is unhelpful. So just wanting to first acknowledge the fact that not everyone's going to have performance anxiety, but this video is definitely for the people who do. So I'm going to provide you with quite a few different tips that I have tried that have worked really well for me to help manage my performance anxiety 11 years in mediumship. Because the truth is, our wounds are our wounds. They will come through us for the rest of our lives, but our resilience to them continues to grow, continues to strengthen. So even though things still feel scary, we have evidence that we're going to be okay. We have evidence we're meant to be doing this work. And it's sometimes relying on that evidence in our life that is going to motivate us to walk through the fire, right? To stretch ourselves, to push ourselves. So here's a few techniques that you may want to consider. Now, the first one I really love is always Kristen Neff's work. I will probably mention this throughout the 52 videos at some other point as well, because that's how important this tip is for me, and it's something that helped me through years of therapy to bring into my own personal practice as a human, because I can be really, really hard on myself. And I'm not sure if anyone else resonates with that, but I can be really, really hard on myself. So I had to embrace and embody a spiritual practice around self-acceptance. And so the work of Kristen Neff is really important. She really is the Brene Brown of the self-compassion world, and her 3-step process to go from triggered to self-compassion is quite simple. The first is awareness. We want to be aware, right now I am triggered and I do not feel safe, right? I accept at this time that I am not like confident sitting here. I accept that. The second step is finding common humanity. Anyone would feel like this in my position. Anyone at 35 years old who comes into a space of mediumship that is the unseen world and knows that every single session is wildly different is very vulnerable putting myself here. So I know and recognize and understand that anyone would feel like this in my position. So we really minimize the trigger by finding common humanity in what we are experiencing. And then the third and final step of this process is to talk to ourselves like we would talk to our children or one of our best friends. You're going to be okay, Danielle. You have done this at least a dozen times before. And you know, even if things do not meet your expectations, it's going to be perfectly fine. And you're going to go on to the next reading and continue to improve every single time. So that is one way that I handle the performance anxiety, is the 3 steps with Kristen Neff. There are also a 3-step process that I learned through my first ever public speaking coach, Danielle Benson. She's in Vancouver. And her 3-step process is reframe, ground, and connect. So what that looks like in a sitting where I may have some performance anxiety is, if I'm feeling that anxiety, in her 3-step process, it would simply be, everyone here wants me to do well. My client in front of me is here because they were drawn to me and my work, and they want me to do well, and I want me to do well. Because sometimes when we're experiencing that performance anxiety, it can feel like we're not supported in any way. We're supported, right? We're reframing whatever the story is in our mind, and we're flipping it on its head right there. And then we ground, and the grounding for me is through the breath. So I reframe, everyone here wants me to do well. I take a breath, really embracing that emotion that I'm declaring for myself. And then I connect by making eye contact, and I just simply talk about something like the weather, or, how is your journey here to be with me today? And I connect with my sitter in a way that's either spiritual or a way that's in my humanity. But it's reframe, ground, connect. Reframe the story, ground through the breath, and then connect with your client. Or if you're in a situation where your client's not there, connect with the world of spirit, but connect to something. Connect to a crystal, connect to a candle, connect to something other than whatever stories are going on in your mind. Another thing to do while you are experiencing any kind of performance anxiety, because this could also happen mid-session. Something could come up absolutely mid-session that makes you kind of like that nervous system really activate. And this is where you want to use the body. This is where you want power poses. This is where you may even want to lean back in your seat. The performance anxiety I feel is not from the spirit world, it's always from my sitter. So oftentimes, if we're too much in our sitter's energy, we'll find ourselves leaning forward, and we just need to simply lean back. This is another tip you will probably hear multiple times over the course of this 52 video series. It's so valuable, and people have tested this out. So try to move your energy from being all up in your sitter's energy to being back. Sometimes when we are experiencing performance anxiety, we feel very stagnant, and we feel very still. And so we want to move our energy. We want to move our arms. We want to be talkative with our hands. We want to move that energy, move the body, become more embodied. So that's another tip as well. I personally love prayer, and I resonate with the gifts of prayer so deeply that there are 2 prayers that I will use in certain situations that, just again, because I'm so busy in my mind and a lot of my shit comes from my mind, I will also use the mind to heal that shit. So if my mind is going in overdrive and I'm like, oh my God, she said no, where do I go from here? And like my mind's kind of taking off, I will instead use that dialogue in my favor, and I will just simply say, Hannah, heart, even just for a second, this is not about me. This is not about me. This session is not about me. And I know that this performance anxiety is actually drawing the attention to me and myself and I. And mediumship is not about Danielle. Mediumship is about healing the sitter in front of me and healing the spirit world. To put that into a very succinct prayer, it's just simply, this is not about me. And whenever I say that to myself, it's enough to wake me out of my egoic state and lean back into the spirit world and continue on my spirit work. The other prayer that is a bit newer to me, but very, very powerful for me, and this is often my prayer when I'm outside of a session, is I will simply say to the spirit world, less of me, more of you. Less of me, more of you. Now, this is along the same vein and the same energy as this is not about me. These prayers also really help me with performance anxiety. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tips for you to try out for yourself if performance anxiety is something that you are having to heal alongside of your development journey. Let me know how these land for you. Let me know if there's anything you would like to add to this growing list of tools and resources for light workers. And I look forward to hearing how this works out for you in your sessions.